Good evening, YouTube. This is the Oracle coming in. I wanted to first wish everyone that's listening to me, whether you're a Jehovah Witness or an ex-Jehovah Witness, or just someone that's interested in world religion, or you just want to know more about the Jehovah Witness cult and how it affects people. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on my video and on my channel. And I hope that my series of videos is educational and informative. And it talks about the process of coming to terms with being raised as a Jehovah Witness or just learning how to think for yourself. For those of you that are fairly new to my video series, I'd like to just give a very brief introduction. I am a third generation Jehovah Witness. I've been out of this cult for 25 years. I decided about a month and a half ago that I wanted to do a series of videos because I wanted to just add my voice to the ex-Jehovah Witness community, and I wanted to help people that were dealing with some of the repercussions of being born in or having converted and then trying to make peace with everything that you've learned and coming to terms with a lot of the things that you've been deceived about or that you haven't had the full story. I don't show my face simply because of my career. I have a high profile position. However, I do think that adding my voice to the conversation just gives people one more perspective to listen to. When I started looking at YouTube videos, I love just listening to different perspectives and different stories because it helped me to kind of just feel like there was someone out there that actually understood what I was going through, or maybe they brought up something that I hadn't thought about and it resonated with me. So I thought, why can't I share my thought and my vision? I have a background in journalism. For one part of my life, I've published things, and I definitely feel like I can give a unique perspective because I have a lot of education, and I've been able to travel and talk with all different types of people, and I've also studied world religion. So that's just a very brief background. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk about one of the bigger things that have been on my mind, and it's probably been in the back of my mind for a long time, and that is I lost my rights. I didn't have rights when I was growing up, when I was born into this cult. I know that Jehovah Witnesses like to say that, you have freedom of choice, that, you have options, but there was only one option that I had when I was growing up. And I really think, having dealt with the repercussions of leaving this organization, and as I told people, I was disfellowshipped because I didn't want to go to the Kingdom Hall. I was disfellowshipped because I did not want to be in this religion. And because I didn't want to be in this religion, when I was all of 17 years old, I wasn't even legally an adult. I also had to give up having a relationship with my entire family and all of my network of friends. It was something that I didn't realize that I was doing until after it happened. And that's the part that I want to talk about. I never signed up to give up my family. I never signed up to say that when I am a part of this, that I can never change my mind. I can never do anything else. That's the unfair part. And if I decide that I don't want to do something else, that I can't have a relationship with my family. And I think that that's where I feel like I didn't have options. One of the things that I remember, and I've had a lot of events that happened to me, when I got this fellowship. But for those of you that haven't watched or seen any of my other videos, I actually planned my exit. But my plan and my exit was to fade away. I was forced to face the elders. I was forced to tell them that I really wasn't interested in becoming a witness. And that basically led to me having to be officially disfellowshipped. And I've listened to a lot of videos, so my example is not isolated. They force you to make a decision. And I think it's very unfair. I honestly believe that it is a denial of your human rights. I think that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say that being a part of the Jehovah Witness cult is giving up your basic human rights. And that really is the discussion that I wanted to have today. Before I get into that, I just wanted to talk briefly about a situation that happened to me. Now, intellectually, I knew that once I decided I didn't want to be in this religion anymore, that I would not have relationships with my family. But a lot of people just want to fade away, which means they just want to stop going to the Kingdom Hall so that they can have the option of having a relationship with their family. So now they force you to either, tell the elders what your decision is. And they do that as a fear tactic. They do that as a tactic of control so that they can label you and cast you out of the religion. So you can't just say, I don't want to be a Jehovah Witness. If you say that you just don't want to be a Jehovah Witness, they tell you that they're going to disassociate you, or they'll ask you to write a disassociation letter. But that disassociation letter has heavy consequences. When I was young, it wasn't, if you disassociated yourself, there wasn't the same amount of shunning as there was when you were disfellowshipped. It was very clear that when you were disfellowshipped, that you had committed a sin and that you were unrepentant. It was only when things happened to me that I realized that there are a lot of people that have committed sins and they have been repentant and they've still gotten disfellowship. So that right there is a falsehood. There have been lots of people that have been unrepentant and they have not gotten disfellowship. I mean, like I said, my grandfather was a presiding overseer. I have other family members that were overseers. I had an uncle that was a presiding overseer. He didn't divulge things like my grandfather did, but I knew a lot of how the decisions were made. My point is that if what the PR responds to anyone that inquires is that we only disfellowship people that are unrepentant in their sin, that is actually not true. People are disfellowshipped for saying they don't want to be a Jehovah Witness. And to me, that's also a case of a denial of your human rights, because they're forcing you to give up your family simply because you don't want to be a witness. So before I continue, I'm going to kind of break a little bit of my tradition where I say I don't like to do a lot of references, but because I want people to do the work themselves, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about the universal laws of human rights. And so I want people to know that there's actually something written. I know that there are people that watch these YouTube videos from all over the world, and there is a universal declaration of human rights. Anyone can look it up, and it is what any person is entitled to, and this was created by the United Nations. And that's, as I think about why the Jehovah Witnesses try to deny or try to paint this picture of the United Nations as this terrible organization, the more that I think about what their end game is, and I'm definitely going to do a video about that. Again, I have a high profile position, but I'm actually very well connected in a lot of ways that I really can't get into, but I'm doing some digging and I'm finding out some things. And I'm really good at talking to people and getting information. And I've been really curious about this apocalyptic group's end game. And I think they planned it for a very long time. So I'm like, why demonize the United Nations of all groups of people and then secretly be a part of the United Nations and then mislead your members? And then when people started having access to information technology and started actually being able to find out things, and there was going to be a published article about it, they immediately, discontinued their membership. It's interesting to me that every time that the Jehovah Witness cult has been called out on a lie, they just either change it, discontinue something, and say it's their imperfection. That to me is so funny because they use those criticisms against other people. So no other organization can make missteps. No other organization can, can change doctrine and still be considered the truth. But they can change doctrine. They can, give all these, times that they have tried to, predict when things are going to happen. Never have they been right about anything. And they still have people that are listening to them. But let's talk about the United Nations for a minute. The United Nations has created a declaration of human rights. And I want people to, and it's a universal declaration of human rights. Anyone can find out about it. Anybody can research it. It is open to anyone. When I started reading over the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I've read the first 5 articles, it touched me in so many ways because I thought about how this Jehovah Witness cult denied me my universal human rights by being born into this religion. So I'm just going to briefly read the first 5, and I want people to really listen to what it is that I'm saying. Article 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Article 2. Everyone is entitled to the rights and freedoms set forth in the Declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political, or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitations of sovereignty. Article 3. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Article 4. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all of their forms. Article 5. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. I'm going to stop right there because that last one was heavy for me. And every person that has been shunned in the Jehovah Witness religion should really think about that last statement. I'm going to read it one more time. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. I'm also going to read number 4 again. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. I'll never forget the first time that the levity of leaving this cult hit me. I was visiting my stepmother, of all people, and I had went into the city. And I think I had went to get something from my stepmother that my father had given to her. And they were actually witnesses, but it's fairly interesting. It was a different interpretation depending on my family, but most of them shunned me in some way or another. But since I was actually not even 18 yet, my family still interacted with me. So anyway, I was with my stepmother, and she was giving me something that my father had given to her to give to me. So we were standing there talking. Again, this is my stepmother. And my father's sister, my aunt, walks past. And she hugged my stepmother. And she ignored me. She acted like I wasn't there at all. And it was so shocking to me because my father had probably been married to my stepmother about 10 years. But I had known my aunt my entire life. She had doted on me. We were so close growing up. And to just see her ignore me was probably the most shocking and most painful thing I had ever experienced. She acted like I didn't exist. And, for those of you that haven't heard my other videos, I actually have some degrees in psychology and philosophy. So when someone ignores you, there's actually a psychological effect that it does to you. In fact, there are studies that show that when someone completely ignores you, you have the same psychological response as if someone hit you. It's that painful. So, in my mind, I knew that my aunt was ignoring me because I didn't want to be a Jehovah Witness and I had gotten disfellowship. But somewhere inside of me, it didn't make sense because I had not done anything to her directly. So it was very cruel. It was very inhumane to me to have someone who was part of my family that just ignored me. So that's the part that I want to talk about. I'm not going to read over any more of these articles. I simply want people to know they exist. On top of that, for those of you that are in the United States, you do know about the Bill of Rights. You do know about the Bill of Rights. And even though it's talking about the government, it's actually talking about a governance of life. The government is supposed to be the example for the rest of society. So what is the very first Bill of Rights? It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Freedom of religion. And that means no religion. That means freedom to exercise your right to decide if you want to be a part of a religion or not. and the government as the example of how all humanity should be treated is why there is a Bill of Rights. So there should not be any organization, there should be no group that denies you your fundamental human rights. They can't prohibit you from deciding what religion you want to be a part of. So let's talk about this for a minute. Let's walk with this. I didn't have those choices when I was growing up. I was not allowed to not be a witness. I could not tell my family that I did not want to go to the Kingdom Hall. If I said I didn't want to go to the Kingdom Hall, I was mistreated. I was denied my fundamental human rights of freedom of religion. And so here's what the Jehovah Witnesses say. You don't have to be a witness if you don't want to be. We don't force that upon you. Okay, so here's how that is a false statement. And it's really done very strategically. So when you are born into the religion, all of your family members are Jehovah Witnesses, and you are not allowed, you are like almost harassed not to have any friends, not to have any associates that are not Jehovah Witnesses. So your entire support system is Jehovah Witnesses. If you decide that you don't want to be in this organization, in this religion, in this cult, their response is that they will sever all of that from you. They will take away your family, they will take away your friends, and you will have nothing. So that's like saying, let's just say you don't like chocolate. And your family is like, okay, listen, if you don't eat chocolate, you can't live in the house. We won't take care of you anymore. But you have the option you have the option if you don't want to eat chocolate like the rest of us, but here's the consequence. If the consequence is inhumane and cruel, is that really an option? I mean, here's the thing, Jehovah Witnesses don't want to talk about the amount of mental illness that is in that organization because it's a lot of cruel punishment that goes on. The Jehovah Witnesses don't want people to talk about the amount of people that have committed suicide because they've lost their families. Because you do not have the freedom of religion in the Jehovah Witness family. You don't. They are telling your family members that if you are raised in their household, that they must take you to the Kingdom Hall. And the minute that you decide that you don't want to go to the Kingdom Hall, you are cut off. You're cut off. You don't exist. They won't help you. Some of the videos that I've seen from the conventions is horrible. How do you justify cutting off your family for exercising their freedom of choice? How do you, in your mind, justify that? I've said it time and time again, God is not a religion. Religion is man interpreting God. God is not a Jehovah Witness. Jehovah Witnesses are people that are trying to interpret God, and they're just trying to give you their interpretation. And they're trying to block you from your relationship with God, because if you don't agree with their interpretation, then you no longer are a good person. You're not intelligent. You don't deserve happiness. And they actually have people believing that they have compassion and love and decency. Like I said, I was 17 years old when I was disfellowshipped because I did not want to be a witness. And we already talked about the universal laws of human rights that has been agreed upon by every member of the United Nations. Why is it that the Jehovah Witnesses don't want you to be involved with the United Nations when they've been involved with the United Nations for 18, 20 years? They've lied. They have like categorically told lies. But they won't give up. They won't give up the shunning, even though it violates human rights. And that's what my video was all about today. I want people to understand that there is another way of life, and that is to be free. There is another way of life, and it's to be able to make decisions that you are comfortable with. I don't sanction trying to police other people's lives or other people's opinions or trying to make it seem like yours is the only valid one. I feel like everyone walks a path, and you have to follow the path that works for you. But the minute that you try to stand in front of someone else and block their path, you are violating their human rights. And this false equivalency saying, well, we actually say you can do whatever you want. If doing whatever you want means I give up everything I've ever known and everything that's ever meant anything to me, you are lying to yourself. But you're not lying to me. I'm actually educated, and I'm actually an enlightened human being. So whatever it is that you're saying that you're trying to make yourself sound good for your public relations is lost. There are people out here right now that were in a Kingdom Hall where there was child molesters in their Kingdom Hall. And because this organization was trying to protect themselves, they would not call out these child molesters. So these people decided that they were not going to be members of an organization that didn't take a harder stance on child molesters. And because of that, they were disfellowshipped, and they were kicked out of their families. They lost all of their friends on a principle that even the most hardened person would have to understand on some level. So for principle, because I actually just don't agree with how you handle certain things, you are being inhumane to me. You are denying my basic freedoms because as part of your membership and as part of your doctrine, you co-sign people being shunned. You co-sign family members ignoring their family. You co-sign people that have grown up with other people their whole lives saying you can't be friends. And that's not right. I don't want people to feel guilty because they realize that there's something wrong with this doctrine. You're actually on the right path. Continue walking. Empower yourself. I realized what it was like for me to come to terms with all the things that I didn't realize because I was born into it. And it was a process for me to actually wake up and continue waking up and continue learning things. You know, once I was able to get over those fear tactics, I was free. And that's really what my videos are about. They're really about the humanistic point of view, to talk about some of the things that I went through, to talk about some of the things that I learned, to talk about how I'm able to sit here tonight and take some time and I feel really good about my life. I'm freer than I've ever been. And it's because I actually just started waking up and pursuing education and pursuing knowledge and going out there and actually realizing that I don't have to give up anything to be free. So, and I think we should leave there, because that's really what it's all about. Being free means you're able to make decisions that you know are right because you are not having other people take away your rights. That's what being free is about. On that note, I want everyone to have a great rest of their evening. Be blessed, and I look forward to sharing with you soon.